That'll take some time. Once I get used to the chord shape, then I go through the chord progression. I have to learn how to change from one to the other. Then I have to go into getting faster at that. I start learning the rhythm. I start learning the rhythm of it. How am I going to go up and down with my pick so that it sounds correct? Then I have to continue practicing until I can get faster and faster. I have to go slow first, then I get faster. If I go fast and just skip to it, it's gonna sound like noise and not like music. Once I get to that point, I get fast enough, I start playing to the actual song, it's perfect. And I actually use this anytime I learn something for personal enjoyment, for the off chance that you want to hear a song and I consider it. I consider learning it for you.
It doesn't take requests. I'll say that. I've asked, there's this one particular song by Tool that I'm not going to name right now that Noah
I hear it in my head. I'm not doing that one.
It refuses to learn to play it for me.
Welcome to the EBFC Show, the easier, better for construction podcast. I'm your host, Felipe Engineer-Manriquez. This show is all about the business of construction.
Today's show is also sponsored by the Lean Construction Institute. LCI is working to lead the building industry in transforming its practices and culture. Its vision is to create a healthy and thriving industry that delivers outstanding project outcomes every time for everyone. Check the show notes for more information. Now, to the show. Welcome to the show, Noah Engineer-Manriquez. My son, my pride and joy, my baby boy, who's now grown up. This show has been 6 years in the making. I remember when we first started talking about podcasting, and in the early days, Noah used to sit right here next to me, and he was about this tall, sitting next to me. And he remembers me recording the intro and outro to the show. I'm going to give you a 1 minute pass before you introduce yourself to go ahead and make fun of me and tell the audience what that was like watching me make that intro.
Oh my goodness. So I was just sitting over to his side. It's so indecisive, this man. One or the other. Do I want this beat or the other? Oh, this sounds like... No, it does not sound like it fits a construction podcast. He was going for things that are like techno. That does not make sense at all. So I was trying to give... I got him into... We compromised. We went for some sort of guitar lick that sounded nice. But it did take... I will say, I'm going to spare you here. It did take longer than an hour. I will not show how... It's just longer than an hour. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, we iterated a bunch of times, and you remember how I used to say the EBFC show like in the early days?
V B F C Show.
Oh my God, yeah. We laughed about that for like at least 2 years in our house. We'd be, off around town doing something, and suddenly Noah would turn to me and say, the E, D, and just mock me relentlessly.
Well, there's no better way to learn than by having it constantly put in your face.
Yeah, so now, it rolls off the tongue now. Welcome to the EBFC Show, the easier, better, this time not for construction podcast. Here we're influencing another generation of change makers, and that includes you, Noah. So I'd like you to tell the audience a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
Well, I'm going to start with, hi, my name is Noah Engineer-Manriquez, and I'm a 9th grader. I'm a professional learner, all right? I like to absorb knowledge, and then I like to use it to my benefit and to others. I love cars. I love playing with my friends. I like to socialize, and I really like math.
You do like math, and also... you might have done a little something.
I might have done something. It does seem pretty important.
Yeah. Do you have a copy for yourself?
Of course, the author has his own copy.
Yeah.
And this is Scrum for Teens. This is the book that I wrote for people like me, teens my age. I'm just teaching them how to use this framework that helps them to level up their learning with half the effort. That's right there in the title.
He had to turn it around to read his own title because... it's a little bit long. It's
a tad bit long, but it's important.
It almost looks like with our names on the front page that our two names together might be longer than the title of the book.
No, not quite. No, my title's about the entirety of this book.
Yeah, Scrum for Teams, level up your learning with half the effort. I want to get into more about this book with you and how it came to be. But before we talk about the book, what experiences have you had with Scrum in your life? What's your earliest memory of Scrum?
Well, it was when I was first taught it. I was 4 years old. And I remember you were starting to learn about this too. So you saw what better way for me to learn this better than to just teach my family. So I was test subject number 1. You're teaching me as you went along in your learning process. And yeah, my life was changed from that point on. Because once you got it through my thick skull and what this was all about, I started using it for play. A lot of play. All right. Because that was the only thing I did at that time. It was play, 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 play. Oh man, do I really have to learn? Play, 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 play. So I wanted to have my normal day of just fun every single day. Now, let's use an example. I remember using it when the first time I used a Scrum board for something that wasn't just related to games, had to do with a trip. We were going to take a trip. We're going to go visit my grandparents. And you said that I needed to pack, and that didn't exactly sit well with me. All right. Packing takes a ton of time, man. But it's okay. Because the Scrum board, which modeling back there, we did it on the wall or a door. I think it was a door.
What was the door?
It was a door. Kind of similar to this setup. 3 columns. I put in everything I wanted to do. My normal day. Swimming, playing with cars. Yeah, I like cars back then too.
You did.
And many more. There were many more cards that were made. I remember you writing. Once we got to like the 8th card, you said, all right, let me get in what I need to get in. You need to pack. Fit that in somewhere. So then we discussed. We played a version of planning poker of sorts by just prioritizing together. We were a Scrum team.
And I was acting as a Scrum Master very first time. It was me and you.
Yep. And I had to cut a few things. I didn't get to do everything. But I did have more time to do what I wanted. Packing went by very fast that day.
And in my memory, and my memory could be wrong, but I was also there. You were so enthusiastic. This was early in the morning. So this was high energy, 4-year-old, smiling face Noah. And I told you, I just explained to you what we're doing. And as we're writing the cards, I was writing for you because
I was a slow writer and also completely illegible.
It was okay though. And I would tell you what it was. And, we already had a habit of me reading to you a lot. So you're used to me reading stuff to you. And we had to negotiate. And from my memory, there was nothing on that Scrum board that you didn't want to do. And the only addition I had to slip in and we had to negotiate where did it go was actually packing your things. It wasn't the first thing we did. It wasn't the last. And you actually did do everything you wanted and more.
That's right. I actually got to fit in more. What?
I know.
It's life-changing.
So Noah, this book, it's definitely not a pamphlet. This is a substantial
this is
piece of work here. How long did it take you to write this book?
This was over 2 years. This isn't over like a 2.5-year process. And it all started in 7th grade, where I was really kicking into overdrive with my use of Scrum. I was starting to use it for everything. You name it, group projects, class discussions, tests, everyday learning, my extracurriculars as well. And I was soaring through everything. I was delivering quickly and with high effort. I mean, this process is amazing. I was finally starting to see some success. I mean, with some support from my teachers, I decided to use it outside of school. And I started pursuing the National Junior Honor Society Outstanding Achievement Award. You can go ahead and see that on screen right now. Just gonna scroll through that.
Oh, do you want to show the award? Show me where in your tile you want the award to show up.
I thought you were just gonna make it so that we go to the sides.
Oh, you want to go to the sides?
Yeah, kind of like what you did with Vic.
Okay, so you and I will go sideways down, and we'll put the award in the center between us. Okay, we'll see if the editor can make that happen. I have high hopes.
I was really using this. I was even volunteering my time. I was taking what seemed to be more time out of my day, but because I've become so efficient with school, I had extra time to work on myself. I had extra time to give my time to others, and to also write the essay, compile everything I needed for this award, and lo and behold, I got the $500 scholarship.
Wow, congratulations. Yeah.
That was my first taste of outside of school success with Scrum. This is really just it's like a wonder. My 7th grade teacher, Mrs. Ponce de Leon, shout out to her. Thank you for teaching me. You're a blast. But she said, okay, you're flying by here. I think you should take your learning up to the next level. Level up your learning.
Oh yeah, it's right from the book title. I like that. You put it.
Level up your learning.
Got a professional podcast host here or in the future in the making right now.
You have to level up your learning.
Very good. So you leveled up your learning.
Yes, I did. And she said, like, go for a passion project. Like, you should go and set out, like, you can write a book. And that stuck with me. Writing a book. I can't put pen to paper. That would work. So I started writing it. I started brainstorming. What can my book be about? What if I use the thing that's been propelling me forward with so much success, and not many teens know about this? Because during my group projects, I tried to tell my friends about this, and they're like, Scrum? I never heard of that. What is that? Who is that? Not a who. So why not educate the masses? I want those who want to learn about this, if they truthfully want to level up their game and to just enjoy life more. I mean, it was right there. I began with the first couple of chapters, and I hit my first roadblock, trying to explain the whole thing. I didn't have the correct names. I was relying too heavily on Google. I needed more credibility and more knowledge. So I decided to take my dad's course. Shout out to the registered Scrum Master, Scrum Trainer, Scrum Product Owner, and probably Scrum Team Member right there.
Scrum at Scale, yes.
If that exists.
That's fun. Yeah, it's in the forward of his book underneath my name.
Of course it is.
It's a lot of
Guess I got to give him credit.
You were at this time like asking me good questions, and we were talking about this at the dinner table so often, and just car rides and doing things together when we can. When I'm not at work.
Yeah, whenever I could fit it in, I would ask him some questions. I'm like, hey, how about this?
And I'm going to brag on you because I've taught, by this point, thousands of people have gone through my training.
Really?
And you were the first person, like, as we're trained here. Like, we're right in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Right
within the heart of this production.
Right in the heart of the EBFC show in its own studio, learning Scrum together, going through the 2-day course. And I think I'll say you're definitely the youngest construction registered Scrum Master in the history of the course. And so you have that title. So how old are you now?
I'm 14.
Okay. How many
years? 2 years ago, right when I first started. I think the math's adding up here.
I think the maths.
The math is mathing.
So in that 2-day training, the way my course usually goes is that we learn and practice concepts for an hour. It's organized into 4 sprints over 2 days. And between every hour, there's a break of like 10 to 15 minutes. And when Noah was going through the modules with me, it was the first time ever we were finishing every single module on time or early. And he was still asking questions. And I had to, in the breaks, he went into the living room, which is just, past this door, and did whatever he always does probably scrolling on YouTube.
I'm doom scrolling in my free time.
It was doom scrolling on YouTube. And I'm back here like feverishly adding more content with slides and expanding the exercises because I've got to hit the concepts, but I also have to make sure I get the time so that he doesn't get ripped off and, he gets his 16 hours worth. I added things to the course that I was telling you just as recent as a week ago. I was training 24 engineers and architects.
Just for example, that persuasion. I said, how can I persuade the people, my friends, to use this? because sometimes people aren't totally sold on something that they have to learn anew.
I mean, this is like a big deal. And this is why I love, that we use these concepts that work for old and experienced and less experienced and new and novices alike, and amateurs even. But that's a real problem to overcome, is how do I convince other people to use this method? And that's where you and I came onto this term that we lovingly call what? This phrase.
Ninja Scrum.
Ninja Scrum. Yeah, I got to throw some hearts up for the Ninja Scrum. So when you first asked me about how do I persuade my friends, I had to think about it for a second, and I said, well, you could use Ninja Scrum, which is something that I've
Tell
used.
me more.
Yeah, that's exactly what he did. But he was like right here, like next to me,
Yeah.
about where that elbow is over my shoulder. And he said, tell me more. And that's where, in one of the breaks, I had to bring in this persuasion video by Robert Cialdini that taught me how to better persuade people with 6 key concepts.
And I remember only one of them.
You remember a couple. He always acts like he doesn't remember.
But I do. I end up remembering like around half or so.
Yeah. So what's one of the concepts that you learned in that training that you still use today? Okay. He's pointing to his face, like for the people not watching on YouTube and listening on.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about these people. Hello, podcast, listen to audio recording land. Yes, I was pointing to my face. A smile. A good smile can help convince people because you look trustworthy.
Yeah. And we call that concept liking. If people like you, they're more inclined to listen to you, and you can persuade them. They become persuadable versus being unlikable. It sounds so obvious, but a lot of people mess this up and don't use it.
I used to mess this up.
Yeah. So do you have an example of some Ninja Scrum that you used once?
When I was in my schools and in the national Minecraft competition, and we went to ISTE, and I do talk about this quite a bit. I might as well. It's a good example. My team had no idea I was using Scrum because we had criteria to worry about, time constraints, and we had, of course, time to practice build. Because when you're on stage, they're not going to give you time to just think about the build. You have to build it from memory. So we would have to program in time to memorize it, program in time to research about it, think about things that we can tie in, and then there's presenting the build. That's a whole nother aspect that needs more memorization on top of the building itself. We're building words and blocks. I was using Scrum to help us fit everything in a nice, neat, orderly manner. And I was not telling them I was using Scrum. I was just saying, hey, wouldn't this be a good idea? And they said, yeah, that sounds pretty sensible. It makes perfect sense why we would start with the research, but we would go we would go high level, and then we would go deep into it for a little bit, and then go out, take a break, go deep into it. Breaks are important. That way you don't get mental fatigue.
That's very true.
I would use that for times like those.
And I'll brag on you for a second, because you can't brag on yourself. And we found out at the competition, this was hosted in Denver, and they were live on the stage in like a multi-thousand person auditorium. You were competing against schools that had done this competition almost 20 times, 20 years in a row.
This was my school's first time doing it, and we made it to the national level.
And they finished second place. That was just phenomenal. How big was your team? How many people were on your team, roughly?
5.
You had five-person team. Did you have a coach?
Shout out to my coach, Coach Robbie. You're a real one.
Shout out to Coach Robbie. Yeah, it was an incredible experience to see you doing and using Ninja Scrum at such a high level. What, from the Scrum framework with the Ninja Scrum implementation, specifically to the Minecraft competition, which of the 5 Scrum events would you credit as being indispensable for your team to have the success they did?
I'm going to credit the daily Scrum. Oh my goodness. Daily meetings were just perfect. I mean, we think about it. We're working together, and if we don't communicate, what's going to happen? People get different ideas, or they have none at all. There's no communication. No one knows what we're doing. There's no practice. I mean, we wouldn't have gotten there if it weren't for us continuously talking to each other every single day. We even had to talk to our teachers, because halfway, I think during the second round, it was during school hours. and we needed the entire day to work on it because it was a 24-hour event. We even went into the next morning. We went all the way until 3 in the morning. We woke up at 6 and went all the way until 3 in the morning. So we had to talk to our teachers. We had to go ahead. We had to make up for that.
I love it. We had a great time. I took probably 1,000 pictures of you, and we'll put a link in the show notes to the interview you did with Cristobal for the Lean Construction Institute, Northern California Community Practice, where they talked to you about that event, and Cristobal did a great job asking you about what you were learning.
Fabulous interviewer.
On site with a team that I brought you to work to help launch another Scrum team. Okay, back to the book. So you finished the Scrum Master training. You become a registered Scrum Master. What did you do next as far as developing your book?
Well, after getting the credits, having the credentials, having the knowledge in my brain, I could finally start putting words to paper. So I was typing away, and then I come to the end of the break. I have a final draft. School starts, and I start barely working on it. I kind of look over it. I do my own revisions. You pointed me to an editor. So props to my editor. Shout out to Bettina. Thank you for editing my book. You were a lifesaver. So I had to, she gave me tons of tips and tricks on how to write a great book. There were so many edits. I'm editing, I'm adding, I had to add chapters. I had to rewrite chapters. I mean, there was a lot. It took until halfway through my summer where I could say, okay, it's to a publishing level now. It's finally ready for the public, but not yet. What was I missing? I was missing some key things that an interesting book would have, like illustrations. You ever read a book without illustrations?
I have many academic books have no illustrations.
Well, mine's not that. While it does help you with your academics, I still want people to be interested. And I hired out an illustrator and a book designer.
Going to the book from chapter 3, Scrum Roles and Responsibilities, at the opening, you have a quote here from Abraham Lincoln saying, "You cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today." And then you go into the different parts and roles and the pieces. And then you close the chapter with a quote from yourself that says,
Let me read it myself. I have fun using Scrum because it makes me feel like one of the heroes. Last semester, I aced my classes and still rocked guitar practice like a bard juggling quests to write new songs. I knew Scrum could be my secret power, Corey. Mike, wow.
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah, that was a quote I definitely wanted to bring forward to show an example of how you make it so personalized. And then we'll show the table of contents is on the website, scrumforteens.com, where you can see that Noah's got his book organized to part 1, part 2. But what is the difference between part 1 and part 2?
So part 1 just talks about what is Scrum. But it just explains the general framework, the processes, everything you need to know. It's essentially what's on the Scrum Guide, except tailored to what I'm talking about. It's tailored to teens my age who don't have the time to look at a free website that's not directed towards them. Because trust me, I tried looking at that. There's a reason why I took my dad's course.
So what you're saying is that my course brought you value.
It did. It did bring me value. I think you should go to those listening. If you haven't already taken it, I think you should start taking it.
Yeah, it's a great endorsement from the teenager himself, who does not ever easily give me compliments in this house.
Yeah, I'll give you this one. It brought me joy and value. It was fun. It was educational. You can probably see my review. I wrote a review.
Yeah, I will dig up your review and we'll put it in the show notes as another quote so that people can see what you actually said.
Let's let it be known. One time did I give this man a compliment.
One time after 16 hours.
We hear all the time that building enclosure is the #1 problem in construction. And when the task of the building enclosure is presented with so much pressure, it's something most of us would want to avoid. Until now, there has never been a course to teach someone how to manage a building enclosure. Building enclosure is a problem for every company, and the solution is often to ask someone within to try to find training or provide training to their teams to avoid these issues. Field Verified's Enclosure Management course is the answer to that problem. We learned the hard way. We've learned through failure. We've learned from others. This course, our team, will help those people who are assigned to manage the building enclosure be successful the first time so that they're spared some of the suffering and hardships that all of us went through. There's so much opportunity for a high return on investment, not just when an individual attends and all of the skills that they'll achieve, but when a team participates together, they can raise their level of performance by knowing what each other can do, what to expect, and they can raise the level of performance of that company as their careers excel and the company elevates along with them. The training is built on the science of how people learn. We capture all of the components that are necessary to master a skill. There's a hands-on component to the training where we're building a masonry mock-up, a metal panel mock-up, we're doing EFS, and even installing a window that later you get to test. The hands-on training gives us the opportunity to translate the lines on paper to actual construction in the field. We always laugh because after the training, people come up and say, this isn't just about building enclosure. There's a lot of leadership in here. There are a lot of people skills. That's because those skills are necessary to be successful in building enclosure and in construction. We'd love to see you get started right away. We have lots of options available. They can come to us in person at Field Verified in Phoenix, or we can bring the entire operation to your facility and train up to 25 people at a time. And we've created an online training that's available for people who might not be able to attend in person. Go to the website and contact us. We're going to start by understanding what problems you're currently experiencing and develop a specific program that's right for the needs of your company.
Just phenomenal. At the end of the book, it's one of these bonus chapters. You've got on page 179, Agile Success Stories Across Industries, 6 Key Insights. I think it's interesting too, for people that pick up the book and some people skip to the end or the front.
Aaron, I have a couple of friends who like reading the end.
Yeah. So you had some of your friends pick up your book. What have your friends said about their experiences after reading your book?
They say that it's fun and it feels like they're talking to me, which that made my day every single time I hear that, because it doesn't feel like a robot's talking or some random professor who's high up on a pedestal is trying to talk down on you. It's me. We're having a conversation. And my friends, once they read the whole book, or at least part of it, to where they get to the Scrum board part, they send me their Scrum boards, which again makes my day. And they're putting into practice. I'm leaving a positive impact on people. And that really, it fills my cup.
I love hearing that. That is beautiful. Is it heartworthy?
It is heartwarming.
It is heartwarming. No, it's heartworthy. It's heartworthy. So
it's heartwarming, which means it's heartworthy.
Okay. Is it heartworthy?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah,
there you go.
There it is. I also, when I wrote my book, I had people take pictures of their Scrum boards and send them to me, most often through direct messages on LinkedIn, because you just get people from all over. And if you're an adult listening to this, you can follow Scrum for Teens company page on LinkedIn, where Noah and I take turns every week sharing content from the book to help you get started, because we both want everyone, regardless of you buy our books or take our course, to get started with Scrum in some way, shape, or form to make your life easier, better, and faster for change makers just like you.
Remember, I was experiencing success from this without even taking the course. I didn't need the professional setting to get me started. I just needed to put it into practice. That's it. Really, it just needs to have some sort of basic understanding before you start seeing results. That's the beautiful part about it. You can be a novice and you'll still have the time of your life.
And then just taking the class, spending 16 hours with Dad did actually level you up. Let's do a test right now.
Okay.
In your own words. And I told Noah that this interview is actually not scripted. We had an idea of some of the things we want to talk about.
The script would be tiring, so we decided to just cut to the chase.
And we wanted to keep Noah on his toes and see how good his impromptu speaking is. Because nobody watching this interview is going to believe that at one time you were a shy kid.
I was.
You were false.
I expose you. You might as well expose me. Yeah, I'm not. I probably still a little bit am. But I have a great way of just hiding that.
If you're shy, you can't hide it. If you're shy, you're shy. If you're not, you're not.
Then I guess I'm not shy.
You mentioned guitar in that quote. Did you use Scrum in picking up guitar? And how long ago did you start playing guitar?
So I started playing guitar, funny enough, about 2 years ago. Once I started using this, I had more time for things. So I decided to pick up the acoustic guitar that you had lying around in just collecting dust. I took that out of the closet. I had to go twice.
Yeah. It blew all the dust off of it 2 times.
And I started learning. And it was difficult because it was new. And I'm like, what is this? It's bulky. And I have to like hold it with both arms. But I got used to that pretty quickly. And let's just use the example of, like, say, I like playing songs because what else are you going to play on an instrument?
Yeah. You can make noise.
You can make noise, but that's not very enjoyable,
No, it's not.
especially for the person playing.
We appreciate when we hear songs and not just noise in the house.
My song learning process, I'm like, just patent the song learning process, the SLP. I start by learning the chords. What are all the chords that I'm going to have to need? I love it when I already know all of them. However, sometimes I'm not that lucky and there's some weird one that's going to use all the fingers in some odd form. That'll take some time. Once I get used to the chord shape, then I go through the chord progression. I have to learn how to change from one to the other. Then I have to go into getting faster at that. I start learning the rhythm of it. How am I going to go up and down with my pick so that it sounds correct? Then I have to continue practicing until I can get faster and faster. I have to go slow first, then I get faster. If I go fast and just skip to it, it's gonna sound like noise and not like music. Once I get to that point, I get fast enough, I start playing to the actual song, it's perfect. I use this anytime I learn something for personal enjoyment, for the off chance that you want to hear a song and I think I consider it. I consider learning it for you.
It doesn't take requests. I'll say that. I've asked, there's this one particular song by Tool that I'm not going to name right now that
I hear it in my head. I'm not doing that one.
it refuses to learn to play it for me. Yeah.
Anything but that one.
Yeah. But I would say, like, in what you just described is a good decomposition of tasks in Scrum. What's the first step in the Scrum framework when you're starting that process for guitar?
I first start with the goal, and I want to be able to play this correctly so I can feel proud of myself. And then secondarily, I also want people to recognize the song and enjoy listening to it.
What's a typical time frame? Learning a new song, is that one sprint or a series of sprints? What would you say? And then,
if I'm doing 1 week sprints here, it's probably going to take around 2 to 3 in order to get it to a good level.
To get it to a good level. Yeah. And then are you getting help professionally, or are you just using YouTube, or
I use a mix. I do take courses, so shout out to my guitar instructor, Eloy. Thank you, man. You help a lot. Teaching me music theory and other songs here and there. I'm learning a lot about the guitar process. I'm also using YouTube videos online, so thanks to everyone out there who's like a guitar YouTube. Thank you, Guitar YouTube.
Guitar YouTube channel host? Is that
That's not the no, don't say that.
What would you say?
It's Guitar YouTube, just like education YouTube, but we're not going to get into that. We're not going to go down to that rabbit hole right now.
No, we're not going to go into how Jen talks, because we would need to have captions below all the stuff he's going to say.
Translation.
Yeah, nobody would understand how he keeps it 100. He doesn't want to laugh. Yeah. He hates to admit that I actually can understand some of what he says, not everything, some of it. It's important. So I want to go back to the book. In your book, is there a chapter that you really like? Like, what was your favorite chapter to write and why? You've got over 20 chapters in this book. Was there one particular chapter that really stood out to you that you enjoyed writing?
Yeah, chapter 5, which is on page 33.
I want the audience to see how synchronized Noah and I are. In my hand, I had chapter 5 ready.
No way.
I know this kid. I know what he likes. All right, what is chapter 5?
How to create a Scrum board. use those kindergarten skills. It's like show and tell. The beauty of visualization, because our brains are faulty. Let's be honest. When's the last time you put down something? You put like your phone down somewhere and you walk away, and then a second later, where'd it go? Oh no, what happened to
It
it?
never happens to me because I have undiagnosed OCD at a very high level. So I know where my phone is at all times. But for people like you that are normal,
Yeah, for the normal people out there, we have some trouble.
yes.
And the same thing applies to when you have to remember what you need to do in order to complete a task. Or in order to fulfill a goal, you need to have a certain number of steps. Can you keep track of that all? No, it's too complex. If it's more than two things, I'm pretty sure everything we're doing out here in the real world requires more than two tasks. You need some visualization in your life. And that's a Scrum board. You know, you got your backlog, which is what needs to be done. That's the goal. You got your to-do list. And you have your doing column and your done column. In this chapter, I do talk about that time when I was putting sticky notes on a door.
You mentioned that some of your friends have actually sent you Scrum board pictures. Have you noticed anything in what they've done? Are they following it by the book, or are there areas that they can iterate on? And what would you tell people as they're making their first Scrum board?
I'm going to first talk about things that some people may think are wrong, but they're actually perfectly acceptable. Because I remember that you were saying, you were giving me some sort of long drawn out Scrum story about how Jeff Sutherland like cut out pieces of paper and just stuck them to a wall of tape. Didn't even have sticky notes. You don't even need a wall. You can put it anywhere. You can have it facing down on a table. It can be digital. It can be on, it could be anywhere.
On a desk?
It could be on my face, but no one does that.
Literally. They're hard to read.
Be hard to read. And my friends, they just work with what they have. One had sticky notes. One was using just like an Excel file. One was using note cards on a table. One was using pieces of paper that were on the wall with tape. Surprisingly, they had no idea, but that was cool to think about. And they had the columns correct. But I could see some almost forgot about sprints. For each sprint cycle, there's a different set of tasks because there's one big long list, but who wants to look at that giant long list? You want to split it up a little bit, make it look like it's less work. You got to trick the brain. And some of them were putting all the tasks in the to-do column, and it looked pretty overwhelming. So I'd say, remember, if you're going to put tasks in a to-do column, try and limit yourself to under 10. Under 10 is good.
You mentioned that you recommended to your friends they do 10 things in a week. Is this a 5-day week or a 7-day week? Are weekends off, or are you working weekends?
Now, I know kids my age, there's nothing we dislike more than when we have to work on days we know we have off. Ooh, that just doesn't sit right. So, yes, weekends are off. It's a 5-day sprint. Going from Monday to Friday.
So do the math for me. How many tasks am I chasing after per day?
About 2, if you have 10, if you want to keep it even. But I know sometimes tasks flow better together when they go in clumps. I mean, it just depends on the context of the situation. Who knows, you could get like 3 done in a day.
No, that's just a beautiful consultant answer right there. Future Scrum coach in the making. The answer is, it depends.
That's good.
That's really good, yeah. One day, earlier in the year, it was during the summer, you were off of school. I took you to work to come in. It was before an LCI event. We had time. We had to stop before going to the event at night, where I think you and I were doing an overview of AI in construction, and you were co-presenting.
For this.
Yeah, we stopped at a job site team that was ready to launch as a new Scrum team. And you actually got to do some coaching with me and help to onboard them into the Scrum framework process. And I will say, this was the first time of all the teams that I've launched over the years. This is the first time that finishing the onboarding, the team ran out to the store, got all the supplies they needed, and started sprint planning the same day. And that team went on to use Scrum all the way through the key milestones in the project. And I just want to let the audience hear from your perspective for the team that you were training. What was something in that experience that stood out to you as being, with me as a co-trainer?
Training people on something they've heard about but don't know how to do is not as scary as it seems. All you have to do is talk about it as if you're just like telling them, hey, look at this cool thing that's helping me. Would you like to try it? It's as simple as that. And I think I really got to them. And it's because of my age. I'm just going to say it's because I'm 14. Like, wow, a teenager's doing this. I have no excuses now.
That's right. They had no excuses. And we did reward everyone we trained. We gave them a free copy of your book.
Yep.
Have you
That's
been
the real reward. Not yours, mine.
Yes. They didn't want my book. Everywhere, even when I went to Malaysia and I gave a talk on construction Scrum, everybody wanted this book.
You ran out before. You actually ran out.
Yeah.
Like in the beginning of the trip, were there people asking you and you didn't have any more?
There were people asking me, when I ran out of your books in Malaysia, I had to tell people where to go. But let's hear in your own words, where do you recommend people go to find out more about your book and where to pick it up?
Yeah. They need to go to scrum14s.com. That's scrum14s.com. There they'll get to learn a bit more about me, but what the book is about, what the whole thing is about, and then they'll be pointed to where my book is distributed, to Amazon, where they can find it in paperback and digital.
Okay. Thank you so much. We'll put it in the show notes below. Noah, you've written a book, you've assembled a team multiple times, you've done Ninja Scrum, and you use Scrum for extracurriculars. What's next for you in Scrum?
So up next coming down the pipeline is a Scrum course of my own, going to be based around my book. Not only am I going to talk about what's in it and teach the actual concepts, I'm also going to give people who take it extra hints and tips and tricks, things that I know from my own experiences that I didn't already put in there. Because why not give them the keys to success?
Oh, that sounds amazing. I love it. And, we've done a few things, before we even record on the podcast. Noah's saying that one of his goals for his course is to outsell my course. So we like some friendly competition here in the Engineer-Manriquez household. And I welcome you to try to catch me, Noah.
Oh, but I will.
All right. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you think would be valuable for the people listening that we should talk about?
Scrum is like anything else in life. Don't overcomplicate it than what it already is. You just got to think about it as it's there to help you. It's not something that you need to take months or weeks out of your time to learn. You learn as you go. From my experience, it's kind of like you're walking in the dark, but you have a flashlight. You just have to point the flashlight to where you want to go.
Oh, that's beautiful. And if you could leave some advice for people listening that might have teenagers of their own, what is something that you would recommend a parent say to their teen to get them interested in picking up Scrum in their life? What do you recommend they do to get their teen started?
Well, I'd suggest you would use Ninja Scrum on them. Just the same way that I was being taught, my dear old dad. He didn't lecture me. He just did it and brought me into it, and I had no idea what was going on. And once I learned about it, I said, oh, yeah, I know how to do that already. And it was like, bam, the switch was made. That's all you got to do. You're going to have them do it. And then they're going to just be wowed by the aftershocks of Scrum. So the first thing you got to do is just do it with them. That's the first step. They'll immediately start experiencing all the benefits of Scrum, like more time to themselves, and they won't even know that they're doing it. Then you'll say, okay, I gotta be truthful with you. We've actually been doing Scrum.
I love it. Noah, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your experiences and wisdom with the audience of changemakers out there. I will give you the final words to close out the episode.
And thank you so much for having me on. And I think this will be another prime example of, I'm probably going to watch this on 2X and pretend I watched it.
Yeah, he doesn't hold any punches.
Yeah, this has been great. I really appreciate talking with you.
Yeah, likewise. This has been a joy.
Yes, it has.
Did it warm your heart?
It's heartworthy.
It's heartworthy. You heard it here, people. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, Noah.
Make sure you like and subscribe. Bye.
Very special thanks to my guest. I'm Felipe Engineer-Manriquez. The EBFC Show is created by Felipe and produced by a passion to build easier and better. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, everybody. Let's go build.